Have you ever stumbled upon an old photograph that seemed ordinary at first, only to discover a hidden secret that changes everything? That's exactly what happened when a mysterious Civil War photograph was found tucked away in a forgotten attic trunk. What started as a simple discovery soon unraveled a chilling story frozen in time. Five soldiers posed for the camera, one with a Confederate revolver pressed against a comrade's temple. But the real horror emerged only after experts examined the image closely and uncovered something no one expected. Ella Whitaker was an ordinary volunteer for the Harrisburg State Sale Network, tasked with cataloging items in the late Miriam Lockwood's Victorian home. Most boxes contained predictable antiques, doilies, brittle letters, and mourning brooches. But in the bottom of a dusty trunk, Ella spotted a faded velvet case stamped with Bajuri Photographic Parlor, Montreal. Inside lay a carefully hand-tinted tintype photo from 1863, showing five Civil War soldiers frozen mid-swagger. Two lounged on a trunk, three stood behind, and the tallest soldier held a revolver to a comrade's temple, a grin threatening to split his mustache. In that moment, what seemed like typical battlefield bravado suddenly blurred into something darker. Curious and unsettled, Ella posted the image to a niche Facebook forum dedicated to relic hunters, expecting a handful of nice find emojis. Instead, the comments exploded with debate. Museum curators, living history reenactors, and even a retired naval armorer argued over the pistol's make and the men's mismatched kepis. They agreed the photo could be dated to early 1863, but noticed strange inconsistencies. Coat buttons out of regulation, a French-style forage cap, and most unsettling of all, the polished six-shooter pressed against the soldier's skull as if part of a private dare. Everyone fixated on the revolver, yet nobody could explain why it was so odd. Within 24 hours and 400 shares later, Smithsonian curator Dr. Lionel West requested a high-resolution scan. His email ended with a chilling sentence soon repeated by many. Mysterious Civil War 1863 group shot. Ella barely slept that night. The next morning, her phone buzzed. It was Drive West himself. Miss Whitaker, his voice deep and patient, crackled over the line. "Your image is intriguing, to say the least." "I appreciate your call," Ella stammered. "Everyone's focusing on the pistol. They say it looks wrong." West paused, his tone dropping conspiratorially. "It does indeed. Would you bring the original to our lab tomorrow? I prefer not to alarm you, but some of my colleagues turned pale when they zoomed in. The weapon is exceedingly rare, a Lamat revolver." Ella scribbled the word down, puzzled. "What does that mean?" West explained carefully. "Someone posed with a Confederate firearm deep behind Union lines in 1863 in a northern studio. That makes your photo astonishingly improbable." The following morning, at a sterile Smithsonian basement lab, technicians in white coats examined every detail of the photograph under ultraviolet light and high-power microscopes. Ella stood tense and uncertain as specialists debated. Captain Roger Daly, a firearms expert recently retired from naval intelligence, ran his finger across the glossy photo surface. "This is without question a Lamat revolver," Daly confirmed. "Designed by Jean Alexander Lamat of New Orleans, it features a 9-shot cylinder and a secondary shotgun barrel. Rare even among Confederates. Virtually unheard of among Union soldiers." "Could it be fake?" Ella asked nervously. Daly considered, then shook his head. "Authentic period piece, undoubtedly. But why would a Union soldier pose so casually with a prized Confederate sidearm? It was a luxury few Confederates themselves could afford." Under magnification, the pistol's intricate scrollwork emerged, tiny fleur-de-lis engravings visible only under intense light. Daly leaned back slowly, rubbing his temples. "This model indicates elite craftsmanship, possibly French-made for Confederate officers or spies. So this revolver belonged to someone important?" "Important and dangerous," Daly murmured. "Whoever held this Lamat had direct connections, perhaps covert alliances well above ordinary soldiers." Just then, a lab technician cleared her throat anxiously as Drive West entered briskly. The auction house claims custody of the photo based on its discovery in a private home, West announced tersely. Without clearer provenance, we'll lose access in weeks. We need more evidence, Daley countered urgently, especially about the revolver's ownership. West sighed, frustrated. I spoke to a historian specializing in covert Confederate operations in the North. He confirmed rumors of espionage and clandestine arms smuggling into Canada during the war, particularly around Montreal. Ella caught her breath. The studio stamp says Bajuri Montreal. West's eyes sharpened. That changes things. Canadian studios were known to host covert Confederate operatives. This could be a legitimate espionage photo, a historical revelation. The revolver's owner might have been undercover behind enemy lines. That alone makes your discovery monumental. Ellas farbeat kikanat. Excitement and anxiety tangled inside her. They were close, yet every answer only deepened the mystery. West leaned in, voice dropping low. Miss Whitaker, whoever brought that revolver into Union territory, was either daringly brave or incredibly reckless. Perhaps both. Captain Daley added quietly, the deeper mystery is this. Who exactly owned a Lamat revolver in Union Blue in 1863? Ella stared at the frozen soldiers in the eerie pose. She had only scratched the surface of an astonishing secret still hidden in shadows. Days turned to weeks. After the Smithsonian's initial confirmation of the revolver's authenticity, a weapon defying conventional war lines, Ella expected clarity. Instead, intrigue tightened its grip. One late evening, Drive West summoned Ella and Daley back to the lab. A scholar from Canada, Francois Beauchamp, arrived unexpectedly, holding archival ledgers and yellowed theater posters. I traced your studio stamp, Beauchamp explained, unfolding fragile papers. Bajuri was a photographic studio, but only briefly operated in Montreal between November 1862 and June 1863. Ella exchanged an uncertain glance with Daley. Is that significant? Exceedingly so, Beauchamp said. In early 1863, Montreal became a clandestine meeting place for Confederate operatives. Bajuri was rumored to discreetly photograph agents and sympathizers for identification, to confirm loyalties. Daley frowned. Are you suggesting espionage? Beauchamp nodded solemnly. More than suggesting. The revolver, the location, it seems likely your group photo captured Confederate agents ironically posing in Union uniforms. Perhaps an inside joke or a warning. Ella si verith. The men's mocking grin and casual, menacing stance took on a chilling new meaning. Could history's veneer conceal such startling truths? Beauchamp then produced another fragile document, a faded playbill from early March 1863, advertising Shakespeare's Richard III with Mr. John Wilkes Booth starring. A stunned silence fell. Daley gasped sharply. West traced the brittle paper's name with disbelief. John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Lincoln. Ella whispered nam. You think he visited Bajuri's studio? It's entirely plausible, Beauchamp confirmed. Booth openly expressed Confederate sympathies. Montreal was a documented haven for agents moving between Canada and the Confederacy. Though American, Booth had ties here. It's conceivable he was photographed clandestinely, perhaps intentionally obscured among soldiers for plausible deniability. Daley sat upright. Booth's initials, JWB. Have you checked the photo closely? West nodded and hurriedly ordered infrared imaging and detailed inspections of uniforms and accessories. Hours later, under infrared light, hidden details surfaced. A technician leaned back alarmed. I found something, he stammered, magnifying the forage cap worn by the soldier pointing the revolver. Inside the brim, tiny embroidered letters glowed softly beneath ultraviolet exposure. JWB. The letters shimmered ominously, a silent accusation embroidered into fabric faded by time. Ellas pulsha kikanat. JWB. John Wilkes Booth. Captain Daley pressed his hand to his forehead, stunned. West stood pale beneath the fluorescent lab lights. Could this be an elaborate forgery? Ella wondered. We must tread carefully, West warned gravely. A claim this monumental will provoke skepticism, even hostility, until forensic dating confirms the embroidery's age. Doubt remains possible. Ella nadie anxiously. But why fake something so obscure, so subtle? Daly clenched his jaw. Precisely why it's alarming. The subtler the forgery, the more convincing. We must confirm this definitively. A week of agonizing silence followed, while labs conducted chemical analyses of ink, fabric, and photographic materials. Results trickled in slowly, each report heightening suspense. The cloth threads and ink dated unmistakably to the early 1860s. Instead of relief, tension deepened. Ella sought solace in archives, searching for any link connecting Booth conclusively to the 1863 Montreal tour. Late one anxious night, her screen froze on a seemingly minor historical footnote. During Booth's Canadian tour, a Montreal newspaper reported a backstage accident. Booth suffered a severe injury to his right hand after a fall during Richard III. A local doctor treated the wound, noting extensive bandaging that lasted weeks. Ella swiftly enlarged the soldier's bandaged hand in the group photograph. Could it match Booth's known injury? She immediately forwarded her discovery to Daly and West, both equally astonished. The Smithsonian Zoo. Orthopedic specialist corroborated quickly. The bandage placement matches historical descriptions exactly. West, increasingly anxious, urged secrecy. We're approaching historical dynamite, he warned. The implications are too staggering to announce prematurely. But whispers leaked. Soon historians, journalists, and auction house investigators circled hungrily, sensing controversy. One afternoon, Holloway from Barnard and Finch cornered Ella outside the Smithsonian. Ms. Whitaker, we've heard disturbing rumors. Booth, espionage, hidden Confederate conspiracies. Such theories could irreparably harm your credibility. Are you certain this isn't an elaborate forgery? Ella studied him, aware that doubt had become as powerful a weapon as any revolver. She didn't know what to say. Answers lay tantalizingly close, but clarity demanded confronting truths darker than she had imagined. By late April, the Smithsonian's secured conference room had become a nerve center buzzing with hushed voices and barely concealed anticipation. Ella stood quietly at the back, pulse racing, as Drive West directed technicians to prepare a high-resolution zoom-in. Proceed, West ordered softly. The sepia group photograph filled the screen again, growing steadily sharper. Pixels realigned, textures crystallized, threads of uniforms emerged, and expressions clarified. The revolver's ominous barrel pressed coldly against the target's temple. Ella's eyes darted anxiously across every vivid detail now revealed. West spoke firmly as the screen split to overlay Booth's known 1865 tintype portrait. The second photo appeared ghostly, then sharpened. Facial recognition software began mapping landmarks. Eyes, cheekbones, jawline, charting key points for comparison. Silence thickened unbearably as the images merged. Ella's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Her breath became shallow and rapid. Initiate matching sequence, West instructed quietly. The software traced thousands of subtle facial contours, then delivered its verdict. An 84% match. Booth's unmistakable face stared defiantly back from within a Union uniform. His eyes narrowed slightly, lips twisted into a cryptic smile. History's most notorious assassin had hidden in plain sight, documented and immortalized in a photograph never meant to surface. Daly rubbed his hand wearily across his face. "This is disturbing," he said. "This photograph challenges everything." Booth infiltrated Union lines, posed mockingly with enemy soldiers, confident or arrogant enough to preserve the evidence. Ella noticed West's usual composure slip as his fingers trembled lightly while pausing the screen on that unsettling image frozen in time. "Gentlemen, Miss Whitaker," West began, voice heavy and strained, "we've discovered something extraordinary and profoundly unsettling. From this moment forward, nothing we know about John Wilkes Booth or the Civil War itself will remain unchanged. In the weeks that followed, the Smithsonian struggled to contain the explosive discovery. Historians fiercely debated. Conferences erupted into contentious arguments, and academic journals flooded with papers grappling with the profound implications of Booth's secret presence behind Union lines. Ella watched from afar as the storm unfolded, relieved but unsettled by the consequences. She occasionally met descendants of Miriam Lockwood, the photo's unwitting custodian. Among them was Lockwood, Miriam's great-great-granddaughter, who sat quietly beside Ella during a tense congressional hearing on the photograph's historical ramifications. "I grew up believing our family's Civil War story was quiet," and admitted softly. "Now, I wonder how much darkness we unknowingly guarded. Did my ancestors understand who stood among them in this mysterious 1863 group shot?" Ella, sensing Inn's distress, gently reassured her. "Perhaps your ancestors were as oblivious as everyone else. History hides its secrets deeply, and sometimes we are merely accidental keepers." In quiet moments, Ella reflected on her journey from dusty attic to historical revelation. The photograph had shattered myths, unveiled uncomfortable truths, and changed perceptions of America's most turbulent chapter. Yet even now, one haunting question lingered. How deeply had Booth infiltrated Union ranks in 1863? And what other unsettling secrets remain hidden within history's shadowy folds? Have you ever discovered something extraordinary in an old attic or basement? What hidden stories might lie waiting to be uncovered? Share your thoughts below.